Hi, I'm Brian Jones, and today I'll be discussing one of the scariest years in American history, 2001, the year of fear. 2001 is headlined by one of the most horrific acts this world has ever seen. The attacks that led to the death of thousands on September 11th. On the morning of September 11th, 2001, CBS announced that a plane had struck the World Trade Center. Moments later, another plane struck the Twin Building, and later on the day, another plane hit the Pentagon. These crashes were intended as the planes were hijacked by terrorists from the Middle East, and they were intended to kill and send a message to the U.S.
And I couldn't stop watching the TV. Couldn't stop thinking about it.
No idea right now.
There's another one. Another plane just hit. Right. Oh my God. Another plane has just hit. It hit another building. Flew right into the middle of it. Explosion. My God. It's right in the middle of the building.
And I was really scared for the world. And once all of a sudden it seemed like everything had changed. That terrorism was maybe something we have to deal with for the rest of our lives.
I remember I was running errands that day, and I was in the middle of an errand when that news came on, and seeing the plane fly into the tower in disbelief.
Yes, right in the middle of the building. And right now, that was definitely looked like it was on purpose.
I can never forget the uncertainty and the fear of not knowing how and why this could happen, how long this would happen. It was just the beginning stages of possibly a war. And then remember calling my loved ones and trying to make sure they were okay. And then I think, like all Americans, we were glued to the TV for 48, 72 hours.
Second, we're gonna re-rack the tape of when we were talking to you to see if we can tell.
Okay.
We can't see anything.
The plane and the Pentagon hitting, and then the fourth plane was very eerie when the passengers were able to call and find out what was happening, and made a decision to try to take the plane back. And hearing that struggle, knowing that they saved lives by trying to attempt to retake the plane, but still roughly 3,000 people died that day, and I think 25,000 plus were injured, and it changed the world. The world that you grew up in, the world we live in, is a direct result of 9/11.
After the attacks of 9/11, it was America's turn to respond. And that very same night, President Bush launched what is now known as the War on Terrorism.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices. The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief, terrible sadness, and a quiet, unyielding anger. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat.
So after 9/11, it was a very, very scary, shaky moment. And as America, we came to realize that we weren't well protected or prepared for that kind of attack.
Immediately following the first attack, I implemented our government's emergency response plans. Our military is powerful, and it's prepared.
I wanted to defeat them. I mean, I wanted to get in there and take these bad people out of the country because.
The search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice.
After the bombings and Bush moving the troops in, I was like, let's just go in and let's just take care of them.
I thank the many world leaders who have called to offer their condolences and assistance. America and our friends and allies join with all those who want peace and security in the world, and we stand together to win the war against terrorism.
Something had to be done drastic, and I still don't think it was drastic enough.
Despite the threat of terrorists from across the sea, there's also terrorists in the U.S. In the late 90s, Timothy McVeigh took the lives of hundreds. In 2001, he paid for his crimes and was executed.
The side of the federal building has been blown off.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
He committed the single most horrific act of domestic terrorism against 168 innocent people.
Guilty. Count two. Guilty.
You look back and then, you had 9/11 and it was, but it was like they were terrorists. This is someone on our soil. And so it always kind of stays in your mind that you just don't know what people are thinking and what they're capable of.
Timothy James McVeigh has been executed by lethal injection. He was pronounced dead at 7:14 a.m.
His execution mourned softly by some here. Counted down joyfully by others.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Because of that mixed feeling that hopefully those families will find some peace, but nothing can give them the peace that they are searching for.
And all the things that they've been through for the weeks and months afterwards, and you just felt like it was, in a way, justice for them.
68 people who died in the April 1995 Oklahoma City bombing were violent, unexpected, and mourned by millions. Today, the man who killed those people died on schedule by lethal injection, and no member of his family was in attendance.
At this stage of my life, I'm against the death penalty. It's taken me a long time to get to that point because I can understand it on a human level, but on a theological level, how do we determine who lives and dies? And
Terrorist attacks in the U.S. from American citizens not end with Timothy McVeigh. In 2001, the anthrax attacks left the nation in fear for years and years to come.
During that time, I had a 1-year-old child, and we were receiving packages. So scary to know that anthrax was being shipped around.
The government has released dozens of documents it says prove Army microbiologist Bruce Ivins was behind the 2001 anthrax attacks that killed 5 and chilled a nation. Among them, one alleging Ivins had sole custody of highly purified anthrax spores with certain genetic mutations identical to the poison from the attacks. Another saying he was not able to give a good enough explanation for late lab work hours around the time of the attacks, painting a picture of a deeply troubled genius bordering on desperation at being caught, and who killed himself as authorities closed in.
That was pretty scary, because to think that people are mailing that and just straight through the mail, and it can kill you.
It paints, I think, a very compelling picture. There's no airtight cases, but probably the most compelling part of the evidence stream is the issue of microbial forensics, where they were able to pinpoint that the anthrax that killed 5 people and injured several others, came from his lab. He created it, and he maintained it.
If the right person's out there and he wants to kill somebody, he will kill somebody.
We stand here today firmly convinced that we have the person who committed those attacks, and we are confident that had this gone to trial, we would have proved him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Now my feelings still are that it could happen again. There's so much polarity, so much hate in this world, and so many different ways terrorists attack, and even mentally ill people, how they attack. It could happen again. It's scary to get a package.
2001 was just not a happy year. Other than terrorist attacks, sadly, on the final lap, on the final turn, we saw the death of NASCAR legend Dale Earnhardt. On the final lap of the Daytona 500, 2 places behind his son Dale Earnhardt Jr., Dale Earnhardt Sr. crashes into the wall in a wreck that proves to be fatal.
It was a true sad day for race car fans. I myself was not a big advocate fan of race car driving until that particular moment in history when Dale Earnhardt Sr. crashed. It just shocked the world, and I really became more of a race fan at that point because of it.
He was in a car wreck, and he tragically died, but you know, I guess the beautiful thing about it is it was a risky business that he was doing, and he died doing what he loved. So I guess there's something to be said for that.
Michael Waltrip showing the muscle. Everything stacks up from third on back. Dale Earnhardt gets turned sideways. He'll take Schrader. Earnhardt and Schrader are in the wall. Waltrip leads off 4. Coming down to the finish, though.
Michael Waltrip trying to hold off Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 463 tries. Finally,
Michael Waltrip is going to win.
a NASCAR Winston Cup race, winning
The Daytona 500, the biggest of them all.
The head trauma inflicted to Dale Earnhardt was too much for the human body to hold. He passed away later on despite being rushed to the hospital.
He was the third out of 3 that died from a traumatic brain injury because of racing. And because of his death, NASCAR took a hard approach towards safety and how they would protect the drivers.
The fact that the best racer to ever live died in the final lap of his final race at the Daytona 500 came to a shock to the NASCAR community and the sports community as a whole. It forever changed the regulations of racing and how NASCAR is viewed for years to come. 2001 also saw the ending of one of the craziest ideas in American history. Napster, the website where you can get any song you wanted.
When you connect, you're downloading music from another Napster user's machine, and the software, the programs, the music never resides on Napster's equipment. Napster really isn't responsible for the copying or the distribution. They're just providing the channel.
This freshman at Palm Beach Atlantic College used to download songs from his favorite bands on Napster. Now he thinks the musicians are getting too greedy.
They got plenty of money from their tours and things like that. Can't play an MP3 on your stereo in your car, but it's basically, just get over it.
Lawsuits started with Metallica, from what I remember, because I guess I was into them, and so that became an issue. And then I think later on with Madonna.
A federal court ruled Monday Napster must stop allowing music fans to swap copyrighted material. But fearing an immediate shutdown of the site, Napster users had downloaded an estimated 250 million songs over the weekend.
Big music fan, did you ever use Napster or consider using it?
Yes, I did, and I profited well off of it because I kept selling the same song over and over to my friends. It was very, very lucrative for me.
Sorry. You got my system, you know?